Our guest today is the General Superintendent and Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago Park District. He was appointed by Mayor Rahm Emanuel 5 months ago. Prior to being named to this position, our guest today served as the district's Chief Operating Officer. And on a personal note, he has taken made an outstanding commitment to the Special Olympics. And rather than me try to describe it, I'm going to give Skinny Sheehan 30 seconds to tell what's up over there. Skinny, stand up. Let him know what's going on. There we go. Skinny Sheehan, President, Special Olympics, Chicago.
I've had the pleasure of working with Mike in the Park District for the last few years. No one has made a bigger commitment to people with disabilities than Mike Kelly in the Chicago Park District. I just wanted to thank him. I know he's going to get up and say a few words, but an example of that was just a week ago. We had the polar plunge at North Avenue Beach, and I mentioned it before to some of you. Some of you I know participated. We raised over $600,000.
Yeah.
Mike has really expanded all the programs for all people with disabilities in the Park District, so we want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Skinny, very much, and salute our speaker. Our guest speaker today earned his Bachelor of Arts degree from John Carroll University and his law degree from DePaul. He is married to Molly, his wife. Molly, where are you? There we go, Molly. Thank you very much for being with us. And he is a father of 4 beautiful children. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Kelly.
Thank you, Jay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, City Club. They tell me today is a sellout, so really thank you to all of you for coming to hear me speak today. You know, it was good to get here at 11:30 because I got to really see not only my family, and I do have family strategically placed throughout the building, but so many friends. And, you know, I've been in government for 17 years, and you don't make it this far without not only having some friends, but a lot of mentors. There's, quite frankly, there's too many people in the room to thank. I've been mentored by what I consider some of the greatest leaders in Chicago, so I want to thank all of you for being here today. I'm also honored to have been chosen by Rahm Emanuel and confirmed by the Park District Board in November as the next steward of what I consider to be one of the greatest agencies, not only in the state or in the city, but truly in the country. I do want to recognize as well a few important people to me. Again, my wife Molly is here. My mom and dad are here as well, Jim and Kathy Kelly. In fact, that is the Kelly clan over there. My aunt to my left. We've got everyone there. I'm very, very proud to have my mom and dad and my wife here today. I'm also proud to have my team here as well. There's a lot of Park District, good, dedicated Park District people here today. I'm looking at Jerry now, and I see Steve Maris over at our park table as well. We've got Steve Hughes, Tanya Anthony, Lupe Garcia, Tim King, Pat LeVar, Gia Biaggi, Jessica Faulkner, Vaughn Bryant, Vicky Kala, and last but certainly not least, my board president, Dr. Brian Traubertson, snuck in. And let me tell you about Brian. He's nothing short of inspiring in his commitment to Chicago. So at this point, I'd like to lead off with a quick story. I'm constantly telling my Park District stories to my staff, and they're like, okay, tell a story, tell a story. So my mom is probably going to roll her eyes at this story. But so I had to be, my first memorable park experience, and I'm sure some of you can relate to this, my first memorable Park District experience was learn to swim. I had to be about 5 years old, and I remember going to Mount Greenwood Park, And in 1975, 1976, when you were going to learn to swim, it was a little bit different than how we do it now. I remember the day it was frigid, it was dark, a very cold June morning, and I remember being led by the hand by I think it was a lifeguard, and back then we had diving boards. And they would lead you to a diving board. They would tell you to go up on the diving board as a 5-year-old, and they would tell you to jump into the deep end. If you could make it to the gutter, well, you could swim a little bit. If you sank like a stone, the way I did, well, you needed Chicago Park District swim lessons. So, from swimming, I spent every waking moment of my childhood in the parks. I learned to play baseball, hockey, football, arts and crafts, tumbling, wrestling, boxing. We did it all, and I am so grateful for that experience. Now, well, first, as a South Sider, then I moved to the North Side, where I learned about North Avenue Beach, the Lakefront Trail, running, jogging. I played softball all over this great city. I still play a little bit, but now with 4 kids, I find myself sort of repeating my parents' efforts, and I'm shuttling kids all over the city, taking advantage of what I think our Chicago Park District has to offer. So what do we have to offer? Well, for those of you who don't know, we operate on a $400 million operating budget per year. We have a AAA bond rating, and we haven't raised property taxes in 7 years. In fact, if you go back 10 or 12 years ago and you look at your property tax bill, you're paying almost a percentage less to us than you did 10, 12 years ago. We're very proud of that. Yeah, I would think a tax comment would get some applause. Currently, we have 8,200 acres of open space. Everyone knows we own Soldier Field, which is the home of the Chicago Bears. It will also be the home to Notre Dame versus Miami this year, as well as Northern Illinois versus Iowa. We have 582 parks, 252 field houses. We have 521 playgrounds, 77 pools, 32 beaches, 9 harbors, with a 10th harbor coming online very shortly, and I'll get to that in a moment, 6 golf courses, 2 world-class conservatories, on and on. And I could probably spend this entire afternoon talking just about our brick and mortar assets, but I want to turn for a minute and I want to talk about what I consider and what my team considers our most important asset, and that's kids. So for the first time in more than a decade, we enlisted the help of the Civic Consulting Alliance along with the Monitor Group, and we created a strategic plan. And at the end of that strategic plan, you see a lot of words up there, and they all mean something to us. But over and over, what we came back to was kids. And that's what our true focus, that's what my true focus is going to be, is about kids and giving kids opportunities. We are committed to getting kids in our parks. Simple enough, right? We're committed to getting kids off our streets. We're committed to giving young men and women opportunities, and we're committed to giving them jobs. I want every child, including my own, to have the same opportunities that we had. So many of you I've talked to beforehand, we all had great experiences in our parks, and we sincerely want that same experience in my administration. And it's good because so does the mayor. As you may have heard last week, the mayor announced that he was giving the Chicago Park District an additional $2.5 million to support more opportunities for children this summer. He's getting that money from the Illinois deadbeats, which about 50% of them live outside of Chicago, and that money's going to go right back into kids' programs and opportunities for our youth. Now, when you talk about kids, you need to prioritize programming. Simply put, our goal is to offer quality program at a maximum capacity to all our children throughout Chicago. And so far, I'm proud to say we are seeing a trend upward in registration. Our winter registration is up 6%, or was up 6% from a year ago. Our spring registration is actually up 17% online. That is a huge jump. In fact, it was so big that a couple weeks ago, probably a few of you saw, our website crashed from our popularity. Let me read our prepared statement here. Within the first 10 minutes of spring registration, more than 4 times the anticipated volume of patrons logged on to sign up for park programs. Or in other words, 30,000 people hit enter 30,000 times in 2 minutes. So it's not a laughing matter, but certainly it does underscore that we're doing something right. We're tremendous marketers, and hopefully soon our technology, and I'm going to guarantee it, our technology will catch up and we will not have a problem in summer registration. So why are we so popular? I've been around a long time. I've met with hundreds and hundreds of community members. We are still the best deal in town. When you offer programming for kids that ranges from free to a few dollars an hour, that's why we're so popular. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't know that some people in this town are still hurting. This economy is still hurting folks. So one of our first priorities when we did the 2012 budget was to freeze the rates. So no program fees increased in 2012. In fact, we lowered them. So for many of you that sent your children to either private school or Catholic school, I hearken back to the multiple child family discount. That's what we did. Seasonally, each child, the first child, you pay the first rate. Second child, 10% off. Third child, 10% off. If you're like me, fourth child, 10% off. I'm also the son of a veteran, and we need to be aware of what's going on in our world today. So we took that family discount and we created a military discount. So now families where mom or dad are active military, they get a 10% discount, whether it's a child or a spouse. If mom or dad is home from overseas, they want to use our fitness center, it's free. They want to play golf, it's free. They want to take a yoga class, it's free. It's not going to solve all our problems, but it is a common sense approach, I believe, to what's going on. The economy, the war, has made life tough for a lot of our families in Chicago, and we're going to at least be aware of it and do what we can to make it easier on those folks in Chicago. So I'm talking a lot about how we get folks in the door. A very important topic is hiring more staff. Since November, and it's tough to give perspective, but I'll try. Since November, we've hired 100 new staff members at the Chicago Park District. That's 3 times what we hired all of last year, 100 new staff members. In addition to that, we took 60 downtown staff members and put them back where they belong, which is out in the communities, not in the central downtown administration building. We did all this while cutting our central administration budget by 10%. That is an unprecedented cut in central administration. Let me share another statistic with you. The Chicago Park District is one of the largest, if not the largest, employers of youth in the state of Illinois. I just got this stat today. Nearly 2,000 young men and women between the ages of 16 and 20 work for us every year. Now, teen employment in the United States is at its lowest it's been since World War II, if you can believe that. Chicago's lower. Chicago, only 20% of our teens are employed right now. I mention this because positions like rec leaders, camp counselors, lifeguards, those positions make a difference. It's not just about earning an income. It's about responsibility. It's about civic involvement. It's about life lessons. So many moms and dads have come up to me and said, you know, what the Park District did, not in camp, but my son or my daughter was a lifeguard. And the level of responsibility they taught to them is invaluable. Again, when you tackle youth and you tackle teens are the toughest group. These jobs for some of these kids, these are life and death moments. Giving them a job, getting them off the street, getting them out of their community. So that's a little bit about kids and where our vision and our plan is for kids. I'd like to now turn to the capital side of things and what traditionally is the most popular topic when we go out to communities and talk about our physical assets. So yesterday, The mayor proudly announced our 5-year capital plan, a plan that totals at least $290 million for the next 5 years. It's also a plan that creates 1,200 jobs, and it's a plan that will reach all 77 of Chicago's neighborhoods. Okay, so this is the Pac-Man slide. Okay, so the reason why this is an important slide is because if you notice, and President Chico as well, he knows this, he's seen this too many times. The green slide, that is our capital bond for 2012, and that's high. Next year it'll be probably 30 million. The yellow represents all the outside funds that come to the Chicago Park District, be them state grants, city TIF, private donations. Simply put, if we only had $35 million a year to do bonds, our capital plan would be bleak. Here's why. All those assets I rattled off a second ago, we spend 2/3 of that $35 million a year just on building maintenance. So you do some quick math, that leaves maybe $10 to $12 million. You divide that by 50, and that's $230,000 per ward. Alderman O'Connor and Alderman O'Shea, we've had that discussion. $230,000 a year. A playground costs $400,000 a year. So you can see our dilemma. So how do we come up with a robust capital plan? We hustle, and we partner a lot. Pac-Man, that was Pac-Man, that's the hustle. This year's capital budget is $90 million. $35 million coming from the bond, $55 million from the outside. I do have to thank the City of Chicago and the TIF. The TIF is huge for the Chicago Park District. Aldermen like Alderman O'Shea, Alderman O'Connor, these are aldermen that get it. They volunteer the TIF, they volunteer their menus, they're willing to make ends meet for us to get our projects together, and I do want to thank the 2 aldermen here today. After the city, our second greatest source of funds is from the state of Illinois. Third is private grants and donations. And last, rounding out the top 4, is the federal government. I'd like to actually take a moment and go back to the private grants and the donations for a moment, because this is real money. More than the federal government, oftentimes these are the donations that will make or break our projects. I'd like to thank the Parkways Foundation folks are here today. I'd like to thank them. I'd like to thank the Garfield Park Alliance. And I would like to thank Special Children's Charities. And the reason I'm mentioning them not only is because they're a wonderful partner throughout the year, but do we have the slide of Skinny? You know, Special Children's Charities, well, here, quick. Again, congratulations to Skinny for not only running a great polar plunge, but really Skinny Joe for running really a family-friendly Southside Irish parade on Sunday, and it does impact because so many parks begin in the middle and at the end do that. And I've got a picture somewhere. I've got 1,000 kids at that playground at Kennedy Park that I've got to share with you. But when you talk about Special Children's Charities, Skinny, what Skinny didn't say, and he's too kind, is Skinny and his folks, you know, that $600,000 they raise, they're raising it. People are actually paying them to jump in Lake Michigan. So, and when you watch it on TV, it doesn't look that cold, but let me tell you, someone who's done it's very cold. Those dollars make it back to the Chicago Park District. You got people like Jay Doherty and the City Club. They support Special Children's Charities. They support Special Olympics. And what that all does is that ties into the Chicago Park District and supports our 5,000 athletes, which without that support, we couldn't pull it off. So I want to thank them. Lastly, I want to give a special thanks to 3 corporations who really stepped up yesterday. CNA and Boeing, who each donated $1 million to the Bloomingdale Trail. I also want to thank Exelon. So Exelon gave $5 million to the Bloomingdale Trail yesterday. This is significant because it's the single largest donation Exelon has ever made in its history. So, back to the capital plan. Yesterday, as I said, Mayor Emanuel launched what we called our capital plan, but he's also dubbed it now the Quiet Revolution. So here are some highlights. So this is the Bloomingdale Trail. This project has been talked about not short of 10 years, and until recently was a lot of talk. However, under Mayor Emanuel's leadership, he has secured $37 million in federal transportation dollars, along with a commitment from the Trust for Public Land to raise an additional $35 million. All told, this project will cost about $80 million. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, this is the elevated rail at Bloomingdale Avenue. It's 2.65 million, or 2.56 million, I got money on the brain, 2.65 miles long, spans 4 neighborhoods, Bucktown, Logan Square, Wicker Park, Humboldt Park, and it's going to connect bikers and pedestrians from the west side and dump them right into the bike lanes going into the Central Loop. It's going to also add 16 new acres of parkland, and I'm proud to say tomorrow the Chicago Park District will award an engineering contract, and that will keep us on pace to make this trail ready to ride in August of 2014. From the rails to trails, I want to take you to the river boathouses. This is what we call the second shoreline. This is the mayor's effort to bring folks back to the rivers, back to the neighborhoods, back to the communities. And with the cooperation of government and civic communities, we have targeted 4 boathouses that will be constructed in 2012 and finished 2 of them in 2013. Moving from the north to south, you have River Park, Clark Park, you have Pingtown Park and 28th and Eleanor, all will get a boathouse. Jeannie Gang and Associates, who's MacArthur genius, by the way, on this one, is the architect of Clark Park and 28th and Eleanor. Meanwhile, Johnson and Lee, geniuses in their own right, will be the architects on River Park and on Pingtown. We're hopeful that River and Pingtown will be open later this year, and Clark and 28th and Eleanor will open in 2013. These 4 boathouses will cost about $16 to $18 million. They will offer community space, boat storage, restrooms, and this site, the Clark site, and the 28th and Eleanor site are going to also offer state-of-the-art training facilities, something that the Chicago rowing community has never seen before. From the river to North Grant Park. So everybody's familiar with Daily Bicentennial Plaza. This truly is a project that's going to stir men's blood. If anybody's familiar with Michael Van Valkenburg, the famous landscape architect, what he would say here is simply, he would say, this is really cool. Daily Bicentennial is a 16-acre park north of Grant Park. It also is a green roof for the Monroe parking garage. That roof needs to be fixed. That roof needs to be removed. I tend to get dramatic. This is probably the 25th time I've talked about this subject, and I'm going to beat this horse into the ground because in September we're going to put shovels in the ground, and people are going to be astounded that all the trees and all the dirt, everything is going away to get to the membrane. But it's also an opportunity. This park, when we're finished in 2014, is going to be nothing short of spectacular. It's going to be the envy not only of the country, but of the world, and it will perfectly complement Millennium Park. Some of the features, you see in the back, you have a climbing wall where those kids are skating. That's also a skating ribbon for the winter, so this will be a 4-season park. There'll be concessions. There'll be probably the biggest playground Chicago's ever seen. And there's going to be topography for all of us native Illinoisans. There's going to be hills for the first time in downtown Chicago. It's also going to be a sustainable park, and this is a relatively new concept for those of you. Think LEED certification, but for parkland. Again, it's cool. It's going to be out late 2014. So I'm talking a lot about 2014 projects. Let's go to the harbor. So I've been part of my speaking engagements. This is where I become a shameless salesman. This harbor's opening May 1st. 1,000 slips. This is a $100 million project, and it's located at 31st Street, which if you're traveling from the north on another normal day, it's only 5 minutes past Burnham. So all those years of people saying to the Park District, I need a slip, I need a slip. Well, here's your chance. There's 1,000 slips. In fact, I think we're only down to about 750. And if you act today, I can probably get you half off on your boat storage. I'm actually not joking, I'm serious. Half off on your boat storage. The site besides 1,000 slips, it does have an underground parking garage, and it does have indoor heated boat storage for about 280 boats. It also boasts a new playground, new parkland. It is really a spectacular site. And one of the things we learned, anybody who's familiar with the north side of the Lakefront Trail, there's an underpass. So joggers, bikers, and vehicles will no longer compete for the same space as you go down there. The next slide I'd like to talk about is our land acquisition. So I mentioned briefly that we have 8,200 acres of open space. And to give you perspective, maybe 10, 12 years ago, we had 7,000. We've dramatically increased our open space in the last 10 to 12 years. The 180 acres that we'll get from this year's acquisition will largely come from the Millennium Reserve on the city's southeast side, the 20 acres at the Rose Hill Cemetery on the north side, and the Celotex project, which is located in Little Village, if anybody's familiar. This is formerly a very contaminated site that Honeywell owned. They've cleaned it up, and when we're finished with this site, it will be very much an active park for a dense and park-deprived community. That was not Celotex, by the way. Moving from Little Village, this is the west side. This is the Garfield Park Conservatory. So I was on the job maybe a month as the interim superintendent the same day my daughter was born, and then we took over Taste of Chicago for 1 year. And someone handed me a piece of paper on like day 3, and they said, we have bad news. The 100-year storm, which I think we've had like 10 of those, the 100-year storm hit 1 square mile on the west side with golf ball size hail. As my luck would have it, it hit our only glass building on the west side. For those of you who are familiar with the building, it was virtually destroyed. But my staff's perseverance and our contractors, they got out there right away. Because all that glass was leaded, it became quickly an environmental hazard site. So it had to be treated very delicately. And all that glass was stuck in 60, 70-year-old beds of trees and plants. So it was really a touch-and-go situation. We got all the glass out. The place was shored up for the winter, and I'm proud to say that in 18 months, the Garfield Conservatory will be back up and running better than ever. It's a $10 million project. And for those of you who know government, and so many I know in the room know it, in a rare, big government's normally self-insured, right? We had insurance on this building, so all of this was paid for by our insurance company. It's a big deal. A few more highlights. We are going to build 20 playgrounds throughout the city. We have 500 plus playgrounds. We are going to build 20 more this year. We're also going to take something on we've never done before. It's the largest in the city, and it's probably the largest in the country ever. The mayor has challenged us to rehabilitate 100 basketball courts throughout Chicago and get it done by July. Yeah, how about it, huh? But in the process, he gave us a tremendous ambassador. Presumably tomorrow, we're going to have a new vice president, a new ambassador, and his name will be world champion bull B.J. Armstrong to help us with that project. We have 375 more capital projects to go. Should I move on? Let me just talk a little bit, before I wrap it up, let me just talk to you a little bit about technology. Technology, it's funny to say this. I said this at a speech at Friends of the Park 3 weeks ago. We don't have computers in most of our field houses. So we're committed, this year, by the end of the year, we'll have 190 computers in our field houses. So when I say we don't have technology, I mean we still run paper downtown. We still run reports hand-delivered downtown if it's too voluminous for the fax machine. We have employees who actually do their work at home on their personal computer rather than spend the gas money or the time to go downtown to do the reports. I think the efficiencies and the barriers we're going to break down with that initiative are obvious. We're also going to launch a new work order system this year. We've already introduced ESCO and energy retrofits to 45 of our buildings. Our building engineers now can control the heating and the cooling systems at 45 buildings remotely from their laptops. That's going to add a tremendous amount of efficiency for us. I already mentioned our troubles with the online registration, but I am proud to say that ActiveNet, our new registration system, has already registered 30 new user accounts and finally moved us again away from paper and into the 21st century. And then last, for those of you who weren't lucky enough to be here last week, the city's chief technology, John Tolva, spoke. And John stressed Mayor Emanuel's commitment not only to technology, but challenging government to embrace technology. And we too have accepted the challenge. One quote we wrote down from John was, "Chicago is a platform, and Chicago's tech community is really playing a role in city government in ways they haven't before." So from a Chicago Park District standpoint, that's why you're going to find us now on Facebook, Twitter, Foursquare, YouTube, and soon we're going to enter into a very good partnership with Google and with EveryBlock. And there were some blank faces at the end of John's speech. There wasn't any questions for a while. I think everybody was sort of stunned at everything he just said. But if you ask your kids, you ask your grandkids, 8-year-olds communicate now with a product called FaceTime, which is amazing. What we thought was cool, walkie-talkies, cans with string, they're talking to one another and looking at one another through a phone. So I'm going to close. If you walk away with nothing, I get it. I am a product of the Chicago Park District. It is my commitment, it is my team's commitment to give kids in Chicago the same opportunities I had, the same opportunities you had, and I want to embrace the 21st century and all the technology it has to offer. So I thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day. Please.
I'll get Skinny up here. While Skinny's coming up, yeah, you can stand up if you want. Fabulous. We'll see you at the parks.
You can see all my family.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. All right, I would ask all my family members to sit down, but I think I'd see about 6 heads. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks very much. One thing I do want to mention real quickly about Jay and Special Olympics and Mike. I just want to thank you guys seriously for all the help you gave us with the polar plunge. And I just want Mike and Jay to know that this morning our next big thing is the Chicago Marathon. We're going to give Jay and Mike both a free entry for the marathon for Special Olympics. So, first question is, when is the 31st Street Harbor opening?
May 1st. What was the first, who asked that question? What's your favorite park? I want to know.
It's your mom. Yes.
Oh, it's my mom. Kevin Stansfield, what's your favorite park? Okay, Kevin's not here. Dunbar Park, great park. That's a great park. A lot of improvements coming to Dunbar Park.
That's funny. That's the next question.
All right, I'll have that.
The parking lot wall at 31st Street Harbor, when will it be greened?
When will the parking lot wall at 31st Street Harbor be greened? I don't know. Oh, you mean the wall of the building? I thought you meant the wall. It's probably going to take. That's probably going to take 2 to 3 years, really, to fully take hold. I would say 2 to 3 years. It is a different look, right? For 31st Street, for years there was nothing. But really, you look at 31st Street, you look at our new beach at 41st Street. We're bringing people back to a huge chunk. Anybody bike? I mean, everybody who fights through the traffic of biking on the north side, and then you get around McCormick Place, and then all of a sudden everybody becomes Lance Armstrong because there's no one out there. So it's become a very popular place, but we just felt for too long Burnham Park needed more activity, needed to bring more to it. So bear with us. It'll take probably 2 to 3 years before that wall becomes something really beautiful.
Here's a question. How can we get more volleyball at the Chicago Park District?
I think my wife would be a better person to answer this. My wife played Macaulay Volleyball and was captain at Northwestern. I think she'd be better to answer this question.
It's from her, actually.
I'm getting killed. What park? What park are we talking about? Because you just did. I mean, it's if there's an interest in sports, if there's an interest in after-school activities, then let's go for it. I mean, it really, my team, it's a very common sense approach. If there's a need, let's fill it. It really is that simple. Our goal is simple. It's not just about making money, getting the kids in the door. I mean, revenue's good. Revenue's very important to government. You don't get a AAA bond rating for nothing. But we're motivated to get kids back in our parks. And if it's what volleyball or basketball or floor hockey, if that's what it's going to take, then that's what we're going to do. As simple as that.
Okay, the next question concerns Rogers Park and Foster Beach. It says, while you haven't raised property taxes, the Chicago Park District has increased user fees for things such as room rentals and park events hosted by organizations. Some festivals have been eliminated, like the Warren Park Carnival, contributing to the recent decision by the Old Town School of Art to cancel its popular music in the Roots Festival. Do you have any plans to make it less expensive and thus possibly increase activity and revenue? Yeah, sure.
It's a good question. Let me start out by saying first, as far as revenue goes, I mean, you need perspective on the dollar amounts. I mean, it was only like 10 years ago. We weren't charging anything to folks. And then the Park District was hit with the same woes of the economy as the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago had a $65 or $650 million deficit. Ours wasn't that dramatic. I think ours was structurally at $28 million. That's still a huge number. So we had to come up with alternative ways of raising revenue. You certainly can raise property taxes every year, or you can raise programmatic fees, or you can charge for space for people who want to use it. And that was a difficult decision we came up with, and that was a difficult decision we made. I'm not familiar specifically with this issue, and I'd be happy to look into it. We're obviously not in the business of putting the Warren Park Carnival or any of these, the Old Town School of Music, which is a great partner of us, out of business or put to bed their festivals. But nevertheless, you have to look long and hard at these festivals and make sure you're getting what you need to get. I mean, no one convinced me otherwise. For a lot of these festivals, we were giving it away for far too long. And for one example like this, I've got 10 examples of festivals and of events that are willing to pay their fair share in order to keep their event alive. Do I have any plans to make it less expensive? Yes. I mean, on programmatic fees, I'm doing that already. It is less expensive. We always take a open view to any special events. And yes, I think that will result in an increase in park activity and revenue.
Here's one from Barb. It's her favorite park is
Chopin.
Chopin. That's what I thought. Very good, Barb. She wants to know if they want to, if there's going to be any expanded programs for adults in the neighborhood parks.
Any specific? Yeah, sure. I mean, absolutely.
There was a Pilates class and it's gone, and Portage Park doesn't have any real adult evening stuff.
Right.
I was wondering.
My guess is your Pilates class canceled because your Pilates instructor either moved to another park or left the Park District employment.
No other programs for adults at night.
Okay, well, we're going to change that.
Okay.
What do the adults at Chopin Park want?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yoga, something.
Well, I don't know the park supervisor's name off the top of my head, but if we can, we'll reach out to you and we'll talk it over, and you and the advisory council, and we can find something. One of the, what's really has become popular over the years is lap swimming. Lap swimming for adults has become very popular the last few years. Chopin.
This is from Chester, well, he's from CDOT. But anyways, he wants to know, he takes the bus to McKinley Park to go fishing. What's the Park District's present program for the Park Lagoon fishing? Or what are you doing about Park Lagoon fishing?
Chester, do you know Bob Long? Maybe the only guy who's got a better job than I do, Bob Long. He's our fisherman. He's our park fisherman. I don't know. I'll look into it. I'm proud to say that my dad is a retired Chicago policeman. I can't tell you how many Saturdays and days in the summer when my dad would get off work and we would go to Cal Park and we would go fishing for salmon, perch, and brown trout when they all still were in the water. So I get fishing. It's important. If I can, I'll work with Bob Long. I wasn't aware that there was a problem with our fishing program. I thought our fishing program was pretty robust.
And this is from Cole Park and Thule Park. In the 1970s and 80s, there was a lot of activities that kept kids off the streets. And are there any plans to bring back more activities in the Chatham, Cole Park area?
So Chatham is really, things have changed in Chatham for the worst. I've spent a lot of time with the advisory council in Chatham, and I found Chatham sits right next, West Chatham Park sits right next to Simeon High School. And Cole Park is where, unfortunately, a year ago, we lost the policeman right in front of his parents' house. It's become a real challenge. Probably the best answer for the Chicago Park, we put police cameras up, we talk to the CAPS officers, the beat officers, but sometimes the only way to take a park back, whether it's West Chatham or Cole, is activity. Making it uncomfortable for the bad guys. The bad guys don't want to be around when people are doing good things, when there's kids in the playgrounds, when there's people playing basketball, when there's people playing football. They don't want to be around. It's when those activities stop that we start to see a trend where we lose control of the park, and then it becomes more of a gang hangout and a place where really the only people that's safe to go into is the police department. So yes, I'm constantly talking to the folks at West Chatham and Cole. We just made a lot of improvements, actually $1 million improvements at Cole this year to start to turn stem the tide before it gets too bad down there.
I think that's it. Anybody else have any questions that they wanted to run up here? Well, thank you. Before we go, I do want to tell Mike, while Jay's coming up here, the first memory I have of the parks was at Grand Crossing Park, and my brother Joe gave me a very similar swimming lesson. We went down there, and I was like 5 years old, and he threw me in the water in the deep end, and about 5 minutes later, I remember waking up, and there was lifeguards feverishly working on me. And I wasn't fat in those days either, but anyways, they dragged me out, and that's my first memory of the Chicago.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Mike, on behalf of the City Club, hold on.